today we're going to be talking about how to simplify rational expressions and find using common monomial factors. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite our problem a little bit bigger. Right? 19n cubed plus 38n squared over, that's not a good over. Do that one. Negative 57n cubed plus 38n squared. And it says, which student wrote an expression that is equivalent? So all we have to do is, you don't have to write a simplified expression, you just have to find one that is equivalent to the original. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to show you guys how to break down each of these monomials, okay? So this right here, that is considered to be a monomial, okay? So we're going to write 1 times 19 times n times n times n. That is that monomial, broken down into its prime factors. Now I'm going to take this one right here. Break it down into its prime factors. Okay. Now actually, 1 is not a prime number, so I'm just going to break it down into its factors. 1 times 2 times 19 times n times n. Go down here. We have negative 57n cubed. We're going to break that down. That's negative 1 times 3 times 19 times n times n times n. Put a little plus sign here. And last but not least, we have 38n squared, which is 1 times 2 times 19 times n times n. So what we're looking for right now, we're looking for what's called common factors, or the greatest common factor. So let's look at the numerator here. My board will let me work. There we go. Does everybody see right here we have an n squared in this one, and we also have an n squared in this one. What else do we have? What number do we have in common? What's the common factor that we have? We have a 19 and a 19. So what we're going to do, our greatest common factor is 19n squared. So we're going to factor out 19n squared out of the top expression. What do we have left if we factor out a 19n squared? We have a 1 and an n, which is just n. Over here, what do we have left if we factor out a 19n squared? We have just 1 times 2, which is 2. And so what have we factored out? We factored out what's called the greatest common factor out of our numerator. Those are the factors that they have in common. Now I'm going to keep everything in the same color. So right now, we're going to scan this. What do they have in common? What number do you see? What factor do they have in common? 19. So I'm going to circle a 19. I'm going to circle a 19. And what variables do they have in common? What are the factors of variables? N squared and n squared. So once again, what am I going to factor out? 19n squared. We're going to see what we have left. It looks like inside here I have a negative 1, I have a 3, and I have an n. So if in those remaining, I multiply all those together, I get negative 3n. And over here, all I have left is still a 2. All right, so whenever you're simplifying monomials, okay, or you're simplifying common factors, what can now cancel out? 19n squared. Cancel out. And so what are we left with? N plus 2 over negative 3n plus 2. Okay. So right now, this right here, I'm going to box it in. This right here, this would be considered a special word called simplified. This is considered to be your simplified answer. Okay. So So we're going to go over here. We're going to see if Omar or Hannah has that. Hannah. She's so close. Oh, she forgot a negative. All right. So Hannah, even though she's close, she's not right. Omar, not even in the ballpark. Okay. So I'm sorry, Omar. Now, if I was a teacher, would I give partial credit for Hannah's answer? Yes, I would. I'd give her partial credit. All right. But what would be the correct answer for this?
Neither.
Neither. That's right. Neither. Good work. All right. So that's going to be what you're doing on this one. Okay. We'll see. We'll do one more maybe. Here we go. We'll do one more of this one, and then we'll move on. Okay. So take your time. Write it down. I'm going to pause the video. All right, so right now, this one is telling us to simplify the following rational expression. So I'm going to write it a little bit bigger for all to see. 3n to the power of 4 plus 6n cubed over 6n to the power of 4 plus 9n cubed. So all I'm going to do once again, now as you get better with this, you don't have to break it down into its factors, okay? But I'm going to put 3 times n, times n, times n, times n, just for the video. I didn't do a very good job there. Right, times n. All right? I just want to make sure everybody knows that 3n to the power of 4, those are all of its factors. Now this time I didn't put a 1 in front of it. Okay? So these are all its prime factors. Plus, change this to red, we have 2 times 3 times n times n times n. Those are all the prime factors of this monomial. Break this down in green. 6 can be broken down to 2 times 3. Those are its prime factors. And we have a total of 4 n's being multiplied. This will be the last one that you do in your journal over this topic. And last but not least, we have 9n cubed plus 3 times 3 times n times n times n. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go right underneath here. Okay? What number do these have in common? A 3. So I'm going to factor out a 3. So they have a 3 here, and there's a 3 there. Okay? What else do we have in common? N cubed. I have an n cubed, and I have another what? N cubed. So here's a shortcut. All right? Like, well, how do I do this without having to write all this out? You look at that number. What, right here, that's a 4, that's a 3. So you know you have at least 3 in both of them. That's why we're going to factor out an n cubed. Now here's what we have left. What do we have left here? We just have 1 n left, just a 2. So just plus a 2. If I had circled everything, then you'd put a plus 1. If I had circled every single number. Over. Okay. Over here, it looks like we have what? Another n cubed and an n cubed. We have a 3 in common and a 3 in common. So once again, we're going to factor out 3n cubed, but this time what do we have left? 2n plus 3. 2n plus 3. So what we've done, what do we call 3n cubed? What is that called? It's called the greatest common factor. That's what it's called. All right, now before we decide to simplify, so before I decide to say, hey, those cancel out, so before I do that, we need to understand what makes this expression, keyword, undefined. What makes it undefined? So what we have to do is we have to figure out numbers. Like what number would I plug in there to make this whole denominator equal to 0? What number could I plug in right there that would obliterate everything in the denominator and make it equal to 0? Yes, right here. Yeah. What do you know about 0? If you multiply 0 times anything, what happens to it? It becomes 0. So the number that makes this equal to 0 is 0. Okay. Now, what number would make this equal to 0? Like, what number would I plug in there to make it equal to 0? So here's what you got to do. If you're not sure, you write 2n plus 3. You put that expression, and what do? You set it equal to 0. And then you just solve for n. Take away 3 from both sides. You get 2n equals negative 3. Divide both sides by 2, and you get n equals negative 3 over 2. That's the mathematical or arithmetic way, the algebra way, solving for n. That's the n way. Now, I'm going to show you a shortcut in just 1 second. So here's the shortcut. Here's what I do. When I see an expression like this, I always do negative this number over this number. So I know it's going to do what? Negative 3 over 2. So we're just do a quick, like, that doesn't make any sense. So what if? This is just a what if. What if I said 5n minus 7? What's the negative version of this? Positive 7 over 5. My answer would be 7 over 5. If I put a plus 7 there, then the answer would be negative 7 over 5. It's always the negative version of this number over this number. That's the shortcut that I do in my head. Okay? Without having to do what? Solve it. So if you're wondering, what did I just do? Let's do it one more time, see if it makes sense. One more example. Give me a number, any number. 412x. Give me a number, any number. 7 plus 7. The answer is going to be negative 7 over 412. For what number would make it equal to 0? Negative this number over this number. That's how you do it without having to do a whole bunch of math. Okay? Or you can set it equal to 0, solve it, and you still get the exact same answer. It's up to you. Hopefully you wrote that down. All right, so what are our two numbers that make this undefined? 0 and negative 3 over 2. So over here, I'm going to select this answer right here, 0. And I'm also going to select what? Negative 3 over 2. Those are going to be my multiple choice answers because those are what makes it undefined. What am I going to type in as my final answer? These will cancel out, and my final answer is going to be n plus 2 over 2n plus 3. That's your final simplified answer. So please write down your final simplified. There you go. Right there. That's your final simplified answer. All right, so here's what we got to do. We got to do the old fraction thing, and up here I got to do n plus 2 over, what was the bottom? 2n plus 3? All right, and then we said negative 3 over 2 and a 0. Whew. Cross our fingers. Yay, we got it right. Okay. Now, that right there is common monomial factors. Now what we're going to do is how to factor binomial factors. So right now we're going to go ahead and do a couple of these. All right, we'll do a couple of these. So go ahead and write down this problem right here. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to do two things. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to simplify the rational expression, and we're going to figure out which numbers make the denominator undefined. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find out there's a common factor of 4. So I'll rewrite this. There we go. Rewriting it. Now, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out a 4. Factor out 4. Now, when I factor out a 4, what do I have left? 4 times 4 gets me back to a 16, and I have a minus y squared. So that's what I have left right there. In the denominator, what number is divisible into all of those numbers in the denominator? 3. So we're going to put 3. We're going to open up a parentheses, and we're going to write y squared minus 4y plus 4. Now, remember, how do we check it? Use the distributive property. See if you multiply the 3 back into that expression, that polynomial, so that trinomial, see if it gets back to your original result. Everybody, this numerator, does anybody know what this is called? There's a special name. That's right, difference of squares. That's called a difference of squares. Now, here's the rule. Like if you looked up difference of squares in Google, right? This is what you would see. A plus b and a minus b equals a squared minus b squared. That's what you're going to see for a difference of squares if you Googled it. Okay? Right here, let me explain to you what this is going to factor to. This is going to factor to 2 plus y, and it's going to factor to 2 minus y. The square root of 4 is 2. The square root of y squared is y. If you have a minus sign, it's going to be always a difference of squares. So that would be an example you would write down for a difference of squares. The bottom is not a difference of squares. This is called the sum of squares. Okay? If you Googled sum of squares, if I said, what's a plus b squared? That would be a plus b times a plus b, and you would get the result of a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. This is what you would probably find if you just Googled what's the sum of squares. That's all they would give you. Let me show you the pattern though. It's very, 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 very easy. Okay? What two numbers add up to -4 but multiply together to equal +4? That's right, -2. That's going to be y minus 2 and y minus 2. These are called a sum of squares. They're the exact same number, and they multiply together to equal this. All right, what we're going to look for now, before we start canceling things out, what we're going to look for is we're going to look for anything that makes this undefined. What number could I plug in right there that makes everything equal to 0? A 2. And what number could I plug in right there? A 2. So the only number that makes something undefined is when y is equal to 2. That's one of my answers. It's undefined when y is equal to 2. That's one of them. Notice, are there any other variables sitting out here? So the answer is not going to be 0 this time. If I had to factor out another y, then the answer would be 0 as well. Now this is the part where you guys need to understand how to simplify things. Let me show you something. This is the most important rule you need to know. If I have a minus b, and I have b minus a, they will always reduce to a -1 as long as b minus a doesn't equal 0. Okay? So b minus a, let me put b minus a cannot equal 0. Okay? So we're going to let's figure out something here. Give me a number for a. 12. Give me a number for b. 11. So right now, what is 12 minus 11? 1. If I switch it, I put 11 minus 12, what's that equal to? That's equal to -1. 1 divided by -1 will always equal a -1. So this is the rule that we're following. So whenever you see, right here, a minus b over b minus a, you can cancel it out, but you better cancel out to a -1. Let me explain to you why I'm doing that. Right here, check it out. 2 minus y can cancel out a y minus 2, but we're not going to cancel it to a 1, we're going to cancel it to a -1. Right there, -1. So here's going to be our final answer. Right now, I'm going to put a negative right out there in front. Okay? We have a 4. We also have a what? A 2 plus y. I just want you to know that it's also the same as saying y plus 2. These are the same. Over 3, and what's in the denominator? Y minus 2. This right here is my simplified answer. Now, here's the one thing you got to be careful of. Sometimes they're going to ask you for what is the expanded answer. This is simplified. This is correct. And I'm going to type this in, and I'm going to get it right. But if they ask you for an expanded answer, then you better expand it, which means you got to do 4 times y, which is 4y, and 4 times 2, which is 8. What's sitting out here in front anyways? That negative sign. And if we expand this, what are you left with? 3y minus 6. So be careful. If they ask you for the expanded answer, what do you have to do? You have to use the distributive property and expand it. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead. What was the only number that made it equal to 0 in the denominator? Just a 2. Over here, I'm going to put a negative sign, then I'm going to put the fraction bar. And let me look back at my work. I had a 4, open parentheses, and what was it again? Y plus 2. Y plus 2. And down here I had a 3, open parentheses, y minus 2. All right? And I did not expand it because they did not ask me to expand it. Okay. I won't do this one. I'll go ahead. I'll do that one if you want me to later. Right now I want to go to advanced. Okay? So we're going to do an advanced one right here. So we'll do one more and that's it. One more advanced. All right, so we're going to go ahead and write this down. Y to the 8 plus 6y to the 4. Oops, plus 1 plus 8 over. Come on, board. Y to the 8 plus 5y to the 4 plus 6. Okay. Now, this is not going to be that complicated. Understand, if that's an 8 and that's a 4, it makes it really, 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 really easy. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to compare something. Okay? If I said y squared plus 6y plus 8, what would those factor to? What two numbers multiply together to equal 8, but those same two numbers add together to equal 6? What number is it? 2 and 4, right? That's a 2 and a 4, and this is a 2 and a 4. So this one would just factor to y plus 2 and y plus 4. This is how easy this is. All this is going to be, instead of y and a y, it's going to be y to the 4th plus 2. And y to the 4th plus 4. So you guys see how it's the same pattern? It's not really anything different. All it does is do what? Instead of a 8, you have a y squared. This breaks to a what? A y to the 1st and a y to the 1st. Now it's y to the 4th and y to the 4th. Everything else stays the same. How about this? What if I said over here, I said you had y squared plus 5y plus 6. What would that factor to? No, this one, like right here. Yeah, y plus 2 and y plus 3. Y is 2 plus 3 is 5, and 2 times 3 is 6. So this one right here, same pattern. What's the only difference? The only difference is we're going to put y to the 4th plus 2 and y to the 4th plus 3. Everything else stays the same. Same process, just a little bit different exponents. That's it. Now, this is where it gets kind of interesting. Okay? Is there any number right here that could make that equal to a 0? Is there any number that we can make that equal to a 0? Now, what do you know about even-numbered exponents? Even numbers always produce what kind of result? They're going to be, if you put a negative in there, it's always going to be positive no matter what. Because a negative times a negative is a positive. So this right here could never, ever, ever, ever be a negative number. Because why? Because it's to the power of 4. So right here, there is no real number that makes that equal to 0. And there's no real number that makes that equal to 0. Okay? Now, if that was to the power of 3, then I can find you a number. But if it was an even number, it's not going to work. Now, what's going to cancel out? That's going to cancel out. that. They're the same, right? So what's our final answer? What's our final simplified answer going to be? Y to the fourth plus 4 over. That's it. That's your final simplified answer. And over here, we're not going to write any real number that makes it equal to, makes it undefined. So right here, we're like, it's A, B, C, or D. Wait for it. Let's scroll down a little bit further. None of the above. That's why it's going to be none of the above. Okay, so I'm going to go and type this in. Oh, it's in it now. It does say an expanded form, but fortunately for us, guess what? It's already. Do you guys see any parentheses there? No. So this technically is expanded form. Okay. All right, here we go. We have y to the fourth. Right arrow. What is it? Is it plus 4? Okay. And over here we have y to the fourth plus 3. Okay, so that's an expanded form, and there's no numbers that can be plugged in there to make the denominator equal to 0. Okay. All right. Yeah, I know. There was somehow there was one that was missed. Okay, I think there was one that was missed because we didn't expand it when you were supposed to expand it. Okay. So that's what you're going to be doing today. All right. So go and work on that the rest of the day.